How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I am the curator for the Golden Age, and this is another...
Lost Heroes of the Golden Age.
Yes, this is Lost Heroes of the Golden Age, and this time we are doing...
How did you find out about this one?
This was a guy I discovered when I was doing some stuff out of Wham comic books.
The Buzzard definitely sounds like something out of Centaur.
You're not wrong. It does come out of Centaur comics.
Another one and done you just had to do.
I felt the need to do this because I'm not sure what to make of him. I mean, he is a gadget-based superhero, but there's no real reason for why he's a superhero. I mean, they attach zero motivation to this guy. He does not have a reason to go fight crime, except for the fact that the mayor said, hey, you're going to be the crime fighter. This guy has zero motivation. He wasn't wrong. His family wasn't killed. He didn't feel the overwhelming need to fight crime. He didn't feel that crime was running amok and only he can do it. He didn't feel that the police were ineffectual and he needed to be the one to go out and do this. And that's what's the most mind-boggling part about this. It is, I do a lot of review of Golden Age characters. Obviously, we're in the 160s right now. I believe. Yeah, 160s. And I think almost every single hero, if not every hero, has had a motivation for fighting crime. This guy has none, other than the fact that his dad is the chief of police, but that doesn't mean that just because your father is a police officer, even the chief of police, it doesn't mean that you're going to become a crime fighter. This guy doesn't actually have a motivation, which made this mind-boggling to why he even decided to be a crime fighter. They give a slight origin story, but the origin story only is how he gets the equipment to fight crime, which I have to say, thank you for showing that. One of the most frustrating things are about these people who go out and fight crime and have gadgets with no clear way of how they got them, where they got them, or why they even work. But it doesn't, he doesn't have any motivation. So why he wants to become a crime fighter really doesn't make any sense. I mean, he's good at it. He's supposed to be a football star, and why would you want to put your life of being a football star in jeopardy by fighting crime? I don't know. I don't think he knows. He doesn't give it a motivation. I know I keep harping on that. But it is so weird that he goes out and fights crime. I mean, it doesn't even say that the mayor convinced him or that he went to the mayor and said, hey, I want to help fight crime. There it is. All right. So let's go ahead and go over this. It's a one-shot hero, 7 pages long. It's not too long. The story is slightly interesting-ish. I mean, the invention's more than anything else. And once we get through with this, you'll know more about the Buzzard, and you can tell me whether I'm wrong with my assessment or whether you agree with me about it. So let's go ahead and get into this. The Buzzard. The Buzzard, real name Flash, first appeared in Wham Comics number 2 in 1940. Original publisher is Centaur, and he was created by Martin Flinchock. Now, when I originally was looking up information, it was unknown, but on the very first page, right after it says The Buzzard, Flinchock his name is there. It's obvious. I don't know why somebody would put unknown. So when I typed in his last name under comic book artist, Martin Flinchock came up, and he was active at the time in the 1920s. So I'm going with him being the creator. Now, the Buzzard is a interestingly weird creation. We never get this guy's full name because he's only been known as Flash, and he is the father of the chief of police, but the chief of police is never given a name. He's just the chief. So we never get a last name for him. And he uses inventions to fight crime. What we definitely know about is a gas that changes his appearance to look like an older gentleman in a dressed-down suit, more like a butler, what you would expect a butler to see like. A beam that is a disintegrating ray, and these gloves that are huge gloves that have razor-sharp talons in them. Now, I think that he's got some sort of spring-heeled shoes or something. It's never outrightly stated, but the way that he's jumping on people, and they even talk about how he's leaping up the stairs in bounds, I don't care if he's a football player. There's no way he's going to move like that unless the shoes have some sort of like mechanism or spring loading in them. Yeah, Flash, he's a football star, and there's no way that this guy is moving upstairs like that unless he's got some assistance. Now, one of the most interesting things about this, and I didn't notice it at first, is his shadows, while he uses a mysterious gas to change himself to look like this butler. While he is in shadow, his shadow is that of a buzzard. And in many different pages, when you'll see the shadow, you'll see the buzzard appear as his shadow. And at the very end, where they're looking through the window to try to see what's going on up there, they'll see the shading of a buzzard in the window. How this effect is achieved through the gas, I'm not quite sure. I mean, in the beginning, they talk about how the gas changes your imagination. So maybe that has something to do with why it looks like a buzzard. Now, the most interesting thing about this is the Flash is given his equipment by the mayor. He even says this gadget will be able to enable you to disguise yourself almost immediately. And let's see, at the end of this, he says, I will give you added inventions of mine. Each will help you fight the snakes, rats, and vermin. Now, it doesn't outright state whether the mayor was the Buzzard before and he's turning the mantle over, but we know it is the mayor that is giving Flash his equipment. So only the mayor, the mayor's niece, and Flash know who the Buzzard is. Of course, he would know, but those are the only three people who know who the Buzzard is. Now, I just wanted to give this a little bit of an intro on this. A lot of this is explained, and I had theories about the shoes. So let's go ahead and cover this first, last, and only appearance of the Buzzard. A slight 3-panel origin story, sort of an origin story, and then we get into the story. Little silly, not too bad, and once we get through this, you'll know more about the Buzzard. The Buzzard, Flinthawk. How the Buzzard came to be. Now, as I was saying in the opener, how he has no motivation. There's no lead-in to this character. I mean, even with one-shots, I've had lead-ins before that just gives us a description of who and what we're dealing with. There's no lead-in to this. There's no box story that tells us who we're about to see. Now, there is a slight origin story here. It is 3 panels, and it's the mayor talking to Flash, and he's talking about how he has this, I think it's a watch. Yeah, watch what happens when I press the button. When he presses the button, he turns into what the Buzzard is, and I don't think it's a physical transformation. The gas just makes him perceive to be this guy. Look, you no longer see a short, fat mayor. In his place, you see the nemesis of the underworld, the Buzzard. So the gas makes him look like the character, the Buzzard that we're going to deal with. Now, he explains in the first panel that only 3 people are going to know that he is the Buzzard. The mayor himself, Flash, who obviously is the Buzzard, and the mayor's niece. So he talks about how the gas works, and it only works upon your imagination or any person who looks at me or at you. I'm not quite sure. I mean, I understand that the gas changes his appearance, but it really doesn't make any sense because he says the gas works on people's imagination. So I would assume that would be anybody exposed to the gas. But how does the gas changing your transformation work upon people who don't have any contact with the gas? I mean, they give an explanation, but it doesn't make any sense. I mean, he hits the button and then from a distance you see a guy who looks like this when you're exposed to nothing that is part of the transformation. I don't quite understand it. And then he tells him that later on he'll be getting more gadgets. And that's more of just, wanting to draw people in so they can see more gadgets as it goes. Okay, so it goes, and now on with the story at police headquarters. So the man in blue is the chief of police, which is also Flash's father. And this other guy, well, I mean, you've read Golden Age comic books. He's obviously a reporter. So you want to know how I feel about the Buzzard? Why, that bounder is making me the laughingstock of the city. You don't think much of him, do you, Chief? No. And if I ever lay my hands on him, I'll send him up for life, and you can quote me in your scandal sheet. Okay, I understand that the police don't like vigilantes, which essentially that's what the Buzzard is. Why would you send him to jail for life? I mean, I know that your feelings are hurt because he's doing a better job than you, but that's a little extreme. Okay, so he gets a phone call, and he learned about Killer Pachi, P-O-C-C-I. I think it's Pachi. So he learns where he's being head up, and he heads out. Now, this part confuses me. The chief of police opens the door, and then he stumbles all over these books. Who in the... Sure, Dad. I mean, Chief. I left the books there. I'll pick them up just as soon as I'm finished talking to... Okay. I know you're a football player, and I know you're not a stupid person because you're a crime fighter. Why in God's name, not only did you stack the books in front of a door, because doors are supposed to be gone through, so it makes no sense that you would put the books in front of a door. You would put them up against the wall or in a corner. Putting them in front of a door makes no sense. Putting them in front of your father's door, the chief of police, who may have to leave in an instant, which in this instance he does. This is just the stupidest thing I've ever seen. This is such a non sequitur. I slapped my forehead when I saw it. I'm like, why would you put books in front of a door that someone needs to exit? And why would you put it in the door, in the room where the chief of police is at? This is just the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Oh, I'll put the books away as soon as I'm done with them. You shouldn't have put them there in the first place. Confound you. If it was in my power to run you out of here. Yeah, exactly. Apparently he was appointed here by the mayor, which makes sense. He's the Buzzard. But seriously, this guy's not stupid, and that's just the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I've gone through some non sequiturs in comic books, and I point them out when I see them. This is just the stupidest non sequitur I've ever seen. I'll tend to you later. I need to head out to the street. And he's like, can I go too, Dad? No, you can't go. You are so stupid that you put a bunch of books in front of a doorway that people need to exit. You are not coming to the crime scene. Okay, I'll get even with the mayor someday. He gives my son a job in my station during the vacation period just because he likes the way he plays football. Are you coming? Right on your heels, Chief. So he lets the reporter come with him, and that's why we learned at the police station. A few minutes later, they arrive at West Street, a street of confusion. I like that line, a street of confusion. Okay, so the chief is making his presence known on the scene. And they say that they can't go into the building yet because they don't want to cause casualties. Let's see. We can't get near them. Well, then they can't get out. We'll have to worry about the Buzzard on the job. He won't be able to get them either. So he's saying, like, we can't get in, they can't get out. We don't have to worry about the Buzzard. And obviously that means it's time for the Buzzard to show up. But little did the chief know how wrong he was. 2 blocks down from the killer's hideout, a weird figure could be seen entering a manhole. Some cops don't use their heads. It was the Buzzard. They won't be expecting anyone from the basement. This is the right spot. I find it weird that you can go into a sewer tunnel and it's close enough to, I mean, it's not connected. You can see him using a disintegration beam, but it's a little disturbing how close the sewer pipelines are to the basement of a building. There's just so much that can go wrong with that. Okay, I can thank the mayor for this little toy. Taking a small, powerful ray gun from his pocket, the Buzzard burns down the hole through the concrete wall. I really hope that he notifies somebody of this, because now you got an open sewer line leading into a building. That's going to cause a whole bunch of problems. And you can see the shadow of the Buzzard as he walks, which I know the gas changes his appearance, but I don't know why. It creates a Buzzard shadow. Yeah, I know he's got the long beak, but you can see a Buzzard's head. And it just, I don't quite understand how the shadow works. Okay, and now to the dumbwaiter. The Buzzard locates the dumbwaiter shaft. He then proceeds to climb up the ropes. Okay, so he goes up the dumbwaiter, and the dumbwaiter is basically an elevator pulley system, if you don't know what it is. They used to be, I don't know if people still use them nowadays, but you would put things in the dumbwaiter, and then you could move the ropes to bring the dumbwaiter up and down. It's basically a pulley rope system. It's actually a pretty elegant design. I mean, we use elevators nowadays, but dumbwaiters used to be pretty popular. Okay, so he knocks on the door, and the criminal decides to open the door. What could that be? Maybe a copper. Better investigate. If you think there's a cop in the dumbwaiter, why would you just open the door and look? Why wouldn't you just take pot shots at the door first? Okay, so he looks out the dumbwaiter, and the Buzzard kicks him in the head, and somehow kicks him so hard. You see, he's only got the top half of his torso sticking out of the dumbwaiter entrance. So the Buzzard kicks him so hard that the rest of his body falls out and into the shaft. No, that's not how that works. Anyways, you can see that the Buzzard's not above killing people. Now for the others. Number 2, the gangster never knew what hit him. Now, in my opener, I said that I think that he's got, like, gadgets in the shoes, and in the next couple of pages you'll see how he's moving and bounding around. Which makes me thinking that he got some gadgets in the shoes that we never talked about. Okay, so the other gangsters are talking about how they hear sounds, and when they go to investigate, they encountered the Buzzard. 3 against 1, that makes this fight even. That's not how numbers work. The Buzzard starts swinging. Having each blow count, the Buzzard has the mobsters reeling. They fall back from the savage onslaught. Let's rush him. Oh, my jaw. And then you see him leaping in the air again. I love how the shadow looks like it's laughing. So you see him jumping here again and jumping on them again. And I detest arrows. I detest them so very much. I think it's the only time I see the arrows, though. And then when he goes up the stairs, because he hears sounds, turning quickly, he runs back up the stairway 5 steps at a time. that's another reason why I think there's gadgets in the shoes. Because I don't care. I mean, you're a football player. You're not an Olympic level athlete. You're not a collegiate athlete. You're not jumping. You're not moving up the stairs 5 at a time unless you got some sort of assistance. I just can't see that happening without some assistance in the shoes. Okay, so he sees the criminal, the last one, and he jumps under him and shoulder throw. With amazing strength, he throws him over his shoulder. Well, I can go with the strength thing. He is the football player. He never moved after he landed. Now, okay, so you just killed another guy. So you tossed him down the stairs, and then you walk into the room. Like all rats, the killer is looking out for himself. There he is. Oh, thank you, Mr. Obvious. I'll take the dough and skip out while the mob is holding off the coppers. The boys don't know that I know a secret way out of here. What's that? The Buzzard! The shadow is so weird. Okay, so the Buzzard confronts him and he pulls out the gun. And that's when he launches one of the gloves at him. Swiftly, the Buzzard strikes out of his claw-like gloves, hits the killer between the eyes. So we see him, he's got talons in the gloves, and he launches it so hard that he actually gets the killer in between the eyes. It's, terrific. Left knocks the killer senseless. So he doesn't kill the leader. So he takes the money out of the safe, and there's one more guy who's got the drop on him. You thought you had all of us, didn't you? I saw you put Killer Pachi out of the way. Now you're going to die. First, drop the dough. So he lets go of the bag and kicks it so hard that it bashes the guy in the face. I guess the gun goes off out of reaction, and he falls out the window. It's the third guy. The force of the bag striking the gangster knocks him through the window. What in God's name was in that bag? This is a pretty big guy. You had to have some gold bars or jewels or something in there, because if it's just cash, it's not going to be heavy enough to knock that guy through unless it's a considerable amount, maybe hundreds or thousands wrapped together, but I don't see cash being strong enough to knock the guy through the window. It looks like a regular carrying bag, so it's got to have gold bars or something in it. Meanwhile, the law officers surrounding the killer's hideout were becoming restless. I've read that sentence several times. It doesn't seem, it feels wrong. Okay, so they think that maybe the killers have skipped the building, and if it wasn't for the Buzzard, the main guy would have. So they look and they see the guy, Chief, things are too quiet. Maybe we ought to investigate. We'll wait a few minutes. I don't want any of a shot. Look! And then they see the guy falling out the window. And when he pulls out binoculars, he sees a laughing Buzzard. Because, that's what buzzards do. They can laugh. So he looks through the window and he sees the outline of the Buzzard in the window. So they decided to charge in. And when they charge in, let's see. There's nothing up here but badly beaten crooks. The Buzzard isn't here. Badly beaten crooks. He's Batman. A few minutes later, the cops were swarming all over the apartment house. They said it looks like the Buzzard was there, but he is gone. Okay, load up the prisoners. We'll go back to the station. So when he gets back to the station, he sees his son, and he's holding the bag that was obviously strong enough to knock a full-grown man out of a window. And he looked, Dad, here's a bag a man left for you. Bah, what's in it? A bomb? Let's have it. The chief arrives at the police station where he is met by his son. And he has a note here. Great Scott, it's $100,000 and a note from the Buzzard telling me to give the money back to the rightful owners and the reward of charity. Hold on. Okay, I looked it up and it says basically $100,000 in $100 bills would weigh about 220 pounds. Now, that might be heavy enough to knock a full-grown man out the window, but if that's the case, I'm a little disturbed about how people are casually carrying around 220 pounds. I mean, I don't strap on that much weight when I do my workouts, and it's already heavy enough. I know that I'm not lifting 220 pounds casually. Okay, let's just read these last couple of panels. It was the Buzzard who gave you this. What did he look like? Describe him, and hurry. Why, he was big and tall, with a gray suit, but I'm not too sure he... And then the niece pops up, and she hasn't said anything. Flash, how you talk? How you talk? How are you talking? He was a short, fat man in a dark suit. No. Let's see now. I think, bah. And you want to be a policeman after you graduate. You better stick to football. Bah. I think he likes to use the word bah. And then it says, finish. Finis. I think you're missing some letters for the end. Okay. And that's the Buzzard. Well, I hope you enjoyed this hero. I hope you learned something about it. Like I've always said, if you have any that you want to see, I'm always up for taking requests, because we might review the hero that you want to one of these days. There are a lot of Golden Age characters, but the best way for me to review the one that you absolutely want to see is to send me a line, because then that moves it up top of my list. And the hero you might want to see might be the 50th one that I'm going to review. And then when I discover a new hero, my personal list gets pushed back, because I don't want to forget about the guy. So, like I said, if it's a guy you want to see me review now instead of later, you can go ahead and drop me a line in the comment section. Until next time, I'll be seeing you.